We suffer because of them, and they are curses. We learn from them. We get stronger. We learn about God, and we know how to then go in the right direction, repenting or whatever you call it, tshuva. And so that, in a sense, when we stray and get cursed for straying, that's God's way of blessing us. Often when we're blessed, we don't experience a lot of the challenges in life. We don't learn a lot of the lessons in life. We get tempted by a lot of the forbidden fruits of life. And so there's a kind of a pendulum. We're either cursed but going on track, and we're blessed but falling off track. And life sort of is that sort of meandering pendulum. That's what I kind of thought of. I hope it doesn't detract from the message, because I think Hashem there is trying to say, do good or not, or don't get cursed, and do good and receive blessings. So might be from a little bit of a different left field, but
I don't
if
know
you
if it's
wanted me to
different left
connect
field.
the pictures, and yeah, that's what I got from it. Yeah.
That it's interesting. It's like, so maybe even in that description, I mean, bear with me here. Maybe there's really no such thing then as blessing and curses. There's no such thing as blessing and curses based on that. If you said one could be the other and the other could be the other, that it's here's what popped into my head. It goes right back to these questions of there's sickness, there's evil, there's death, there's accidents in the world, that the question isn't the why, but rather the now what,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not the why, but it's rather the now what, right? That maybe it's not totally clear what is a blessing and what is a curse. Maybe it is if you look at it in a vacuum, right? But life isn't a vacuum, right? It's a continuum. And then you look along it. But at the same time, but I don't want to say it's about like everything is meant to be. It means about, I mean, that's just not my theology, right? It's very possible that's for you, it's your theology. I know that's for a lot of people, their theology, but for me, meant to be is not a way that I like to live my life or practice my Judaism, right? I try and I know that all my actions have consequences, but at the same time, I live in community and other people have influence over my life. I don't know. This is interesting. Because then the curses, this when he talks about the curses is like, but don't turn away from God, right? Don't turn to this other path and follow other gods whom you have not experienced. What's that about? What's
I
that
think
line
it
about?
all I think it all forces you to think before you take an action.
Ah,
Whether it's a blessing or a curse or an action with someone, I think it makes you think about what you do before you do it.
makes you think about what you do before you do it. Okay, this is good because then it goes. This next part, then it's fascinating to me. Check this out. You must destroy all the sites at which the nations you are to dispossess worshipped their gods. Okay, so where are they? They're not in the land yet. They don't. This is all theoretical to them that this is what's going to happen. You do so when you go into the land. This comes right after what we just saw: blessings and cursings. When you go, you must destroy all the sites at which the nations you are to dispossess worship their gods, whether on lofty mountains and on hills or under luxuriant trees. Tear down their altars, smash their pillars, put their sacred posts to the fire, cut down the images of their gods, obliterating their name from that site. Do not worship your God Adonai in like manner. What is going on here? Why is God having the Israelite people do this?
To remove temptation.
Oh, so it's not enough to just say, don't do this. I'm going to remove temptation. So this has nothing to do really then with the other peoples and the other gods and the other sanctuaries and the other altars and the other sites, because they are intrinsically quote unquote bad or wrong or whatnot, but rather, is it removing temptation? Could that also be seen as a distrust of the Israelite people? I don't trust the Israelite people to do the right thing, so I'm not going to put them in the position to fail.
Well, I think belief in one God is an idea, and how do you keep that idea alive when you can have a physical object in front of you from which to pray? I think I've said this before. When I was a kid, I asked my father, "Where is God?" And he said, "God is everywhere." Well, how is it that you're supposed to pray to something, to God who's everywhere? Where it would seem like it's so much easier just to have that statue or the golden calf in front of you and direct your prayers that way.
But okay. I'm going to push a little on that in a second. Go ahead, Merle.
I'll never forget when I was in Nifty and we were at a weekend retreat at camp. And the subject of the weekend, the study subject of the weekend, was where is God and where is God / who is God? And whenever this question comes up, I think about that weekend, as far as we never really came up with a decision because there were probably 100 people, 100 teenagers there. We all had a different philosophy, or we were all coming from a different place with a different philosophy. So I guess my question now is there really an answer? Or is it how we believe what we believe as individuals and make that work for our community?
Okay, yet there's still this idea of removing temptation, because look, we don't live in a shtetl, right? We don't live in a shtetl. Well, maybe Los Angeles a little bit of a shtetl, but dude, that's no shtetl up in Bakersfield for Doug, yet he's here every week and he's surrounded, but he's not going out and destroying the things, or what's up with that? It's like, I'm gonna get rid of these things so you don't get tempted. But then, we just said, well, God is everywhere. God is everywhere. What does that mean? We don't need this place. Yet that's not totally how we, at least here in this type of Judaism, really looked at us to practice. Because where is that one? Here, because it goes on, but look, because after it says, do not worship your God in like manner. What's the like manner? Because now it says, but look only to the site that your God Adonai will choose amidst all your tribes as God's habitation, right? To establish the divine name. There you are to go, and there you are to bring your burnt offerings and other sacrifices, your tithes and contributions, your votive and your free will offerings, and the firstlings of your herd and your flock. Together with your households, you shall feast there before your God Adonai, happy in all the undertakings in which your God Adonai has blessed you. So it's saying, get rid of all this stuff, get rid of these places, because I'm about to tell you a different place, a specific place, right? It's not that you're going to have a specific place and I want you to go hang out there, but don't worry, there's these other people and they're doing their thing, right? They're doing their thing. It's quote unquote not the right thing, because we all know, meaning God saying this to the people, that is only just God and there's one, and it's like they're kind of all right. Ooh, we have battling battling biker hands going on right here. I'm gonna go Jonathan first and then Brad.
Well, I think I caught what you were saying just a little bit down the road. So when you said what do the pictures mean, and I said the blessing is the curse and the curse is the blessing, the next thing you said was, well, how? And then what you're basically saying is that he was removing a temptation sort of by placing these constraints. So that ends up being, in a sense, a blessing. So what looks then like he's sort of treating us like a pinball machine and sort of slapping us when we veer to the left and slapping us when we go off to the right and that sort of stuff. What he's ultimately doing is that's how he's keeping us on the path. He doesn't, like you were saying, we're going to go astray. We're not going to, we don't have the ability to get there. So he has to basically give us a path. And the way he's given us the path is by saying, if you go wrong, you're getting cursed.
Yeah.
Right. And so in that sense, the curse isn't really the curse, but it's the blessing, or it's not really, or it's not just senseless, harm to us. It's not, but it's in one sense, the curse is the duck. And in the other sense, it's the rabbit. In one sense, it's harsh to us, but in the other sense, it's exactly what we need to get on the path, because if he doesn't, slap us back on the path when we fall off it, then we won't get there. Is basically what you're saying. Is that sort of harmonize or get what I was saying to where you were trying to go?
It's not necessarily where I was trying to go. I kind of feel like we got there, but I'm, just very curious about why I feel that God is coming from in these pieces, coming from the place of maybe distrust, or just give us the benefit of the doubt that we're not going to stray, or maybe it's trust but verify. Maybe it's trust but verify. Because also, like when we talk, oh, God is every, because even here, take care not to sacrifice your burnt offerings in any place you like. You can't just worship God any place you like. You can't do that. Has to be specific, right? Which kind of is antithetical to the way that we pray, recognize the way that we participate in Jewish life. Sort of. Right? Because after the destruction of the second temple, when all of these burnt offerings and all of these kind of things and sacrifice and pilgrimage, that's out the window. We're done. So you could have said, well, we had a good run. We're done, but we didn't. Now we're like, okay, you can now do this in any place you like. You could do it here. You can do it in Yavne, right? Give me Yavne. We'll go over there. You can do it in Los Angeles. You can do this in Bakerfield. You can do this on the bike path wherever you are in the bike. Are you in Santa Monica or Venice or somewhere, wherever you are, right? You can do this in Arizona. You can do this in Santa Monica, or you could do this up in Santa Cruz. Not this way. Not this way, right? Which is very interesting. But it's not totally true, right? Because later on, what happens, they say, if you can't bring all your stuff, sell your stuff, bring the money, you can give it to somebody who can take it for you. So it's a little bit different. All right. Check out this one.
Wait, Rabbi?
Yeah, go. Sorry, Brad. I didn't even see that hand. Go.
Don't forget me.
God forbid.
No, what struck me is the sentence about I'm the God who you experienced, and that leads into this. So even having that experience of God is not enough to protect us from the threat of idolatry. That's a very powerful statement. So I think it's saying is, even though we've had that experience, we're still the only answer to dealing with this threat is one, annihilation, and observing the mitzvot by practicing. It's practicing that is going to practicing these mitzvot that is going to protect us from the sins.
Whoops! I got so crazy with that I accidentally shut off my computer. I pulled the plug in the power of my computer. Brad, you got me all famished over here. How could I forget about you? All right, I'm back. Do you remember what you were going to say, Brad?
Yes.
All right, please. I don't.
I'll say it again and bore everybody else with my comments. My point is the first sentence is that I'm the God who you experienced. And yet, even that experience, that direct experience with God, is not enough to protect us from the threat of idolatry. That threat is so powerful that even having the experience of God isn't enough. So the answers are twofold. One, annihilate. And once you've annihilated and you've got a clean slate, then the second step is to practice the mitzvot.
Okay.
That's what will protect you, because the experience of God is not enough.
Oh, wow. So it only comes from the practice that will protect you, the practice to really understand or engage with the experience with God that will protect you. And then we always need these fail safes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it's very similar to the Greek concept of virtue. The way you acquire virtue, according to Aristotle, is you practice virtue. That's how you acquire virtue. This is the same concept.
Well,
you have to practice. You've got to work at it. You got to practice it, because just having an encounter with God is not enough.
but that sounds to me, you know what that sounds? That sounds to me though. It's almost like, if let's use the virtue example, then it's only a theoretical relationship or understanding of the virtue, or of understanding. How do you know that you're really virtuous if there aren't those temptations around you to practice the virtue?
But you know that you're practicing the mitzvot. God's given us the route. He's given us the path. He's telling us how to lead that virtuous life.
But not in the face of anything else. Is it really virtuous if it's like only theoretical that there are these things that could pull you in a different direction?
Well, but these aren't theoretical threats. This is a real threat. The threat of idolatry is a real threat. So I'm not understanding.
Well, because God is just if God is just having us get rid of all these temptations, get rid of it, destroy it, get it out of your sight, then is it?
The question is do you really get rid of those temptations?
Okay,
if you really believe in God, I think I'm guessing here. If you really believe in God, then you'll sort of throw those temptations out the window.
Well, that's an interesting point, because look at this. Look at this next line. No, what'd you say, Helen? Helen, you talking to us? I don't know. Here we go. Check this out, though. Look at this line. Be careful to observe only that which I enjoin upon you, neither add to it nor take away from it. Neither add to it nor take away from it. Right? What is that about? What's that about right there? Go, Rebecca.
Well, that was my question when I had my hand up before, because this was written supposedly 1500, 1600 BCE, and then canonized during the Babylonian exile, where after we returned back to the land and changed from sacrifices to prayer, during that time, did we add or take away from it when we went from sacrifice to prayer?
Are you saying we didn't?
Like trying to make sense of something that was written so long ago, which is the point of this whole thing. So
well, I think it's also about, I think this is also about just keeping your eyes on the prize, but doesn't allow for maybe experimentation. And, as progressive small p Jews, right? Reform movement, conservative movement, we're experimenting with things all the time, different entry points on how to connect and with God, with each other, and those kind of things. But is this saying like, well, maybe you shouldn't be playing guitar in the service? Maybe you shouldn't be creating different themes for your services, like Disney Shabbat, hip hop Shabbat. I don't know. Maybe it's don't shorten the Amidah. Make sure you say every word. Don't skip prayers.
right. Yeah.
But that's what we do. So I wonder if it's really about like, don't neither add to it or take away from a framework, but you can always be creative with the framework. I don't know, just at face value, because then here it goes into this, what you were saying, like if there appears among you a prophet or a dream diviner, right? That let us follow, worship another God, blah, 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 blah. That you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to kill this person. And then even if your brother or your son or daughter or wife or your closest friend entices you with secret saying, come, let us worship other gods, whom neither you nor your ancestors have ever experienced from among the gods of the peoples around you, either near to you or distant, anywhere, yada, yada, yada. You're supposed to destroy your own family, to kill them, right? If they making you stray, you kill them. If they're straying, you kill them. Because thus all Israel will hear and be afraid, and such evil things will not be done again in your midst, right? So I'm trying to scare you into not doing stuff. But this is also really challenging. Why would this be challenging to me in a modern sensibility? Why would this be challenging to me? Brad, I see your hand is up.
No, that's a holdover from before.
Oh, holdover. Why would this be challenging to me, Merle, than Rebecca?
I'm thinking it's a challenge because I'm thinking of the Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox families that I know. How do you kill your family in today's, you said in today's world. And I have a question. Does that fit with, where do modern Orthodox fit into this? And I know that
where do we fit into this?
Well, I guess it's all, where do we fit into this? I can't picture if you forget Reform, Conservative, and maybe even modern Orthodox, I can't see my ultra Orthodox close family friends fitting into a mold where if their family does something wrong, where they're going to kill them.
So let's take away the word kill. Let's use that as an analogy, right? Or a metaphor, right? What's another, like, if you do this, I'm going to cut you off. I'm not going to have a relationship with you, right? I'm not going to
And
have a
I've seen
relationship
and
with you.
I've seen families where that's happened,
I think we
where
all
they have
probably
cut
know
off
families.
relationships and
We all
all
know something like that in some way or
right,
another, whether it's religion, whether it's, business, money, choice
right.
that one makes. I mean, lifestyle, whatever.
But I can't accept it that it's okay to do that. Yeah, you can get mad and you can have words, which I'm not sure that's right either. Because we've been there and done that already with one family member.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't see destroying in any way what should be so important to you, us, anyone.
Again, it feels to me, Brad's raising his hand, that's not a holdover. Again, it seems to me that this is coming out of a lack of trust and fear. Like I'm just trying to literally instill the fear of God in you to not make choices, certain types of choices. Look, I think about this all the time. It's very interesting. Like when I get to sit on the Beit Din of conversion candidates, and they're making a choice. For some, leaving one faith, one thing with, I mean, and it's not just their faith, right? Leaving traditions of their family and joining another. And like we think that's really beautiful that they're joining us, but I have to be also sympathetic to these other families. I see this a lot where families will stop talking to each other or disown or whatnot. And I mean, I think it's beautiful coming this way, but then I wonder, well, how would I feel if one of my children chose to leave Judaism or leave the Jewish community and be part of something else?
Be no more echo.
Oh, okay.
It's again, it's I can profess certain virtues and values, but am I living certain virtues and values? Right? Am I living? It's sort of like I got you, Brad, in a second. It's sort of like, so when I remember like red lines in the sand or lines in the sand that I have in the weddings that I do, right? I don't like to do them on Saturday evenings unless the stars are starting to come out and we do Havdalah. But I once agreed, I mean, this was years and years and years ago. Gosh, like 18 years ago, 19 years ago, I agreed to do this wedding and I didn't really pay attention to the timing of it. And it was in the summer. It was up in San Francisco and it was on a Saturday at 6 p.m. Sun is still up in the sky. And I remember we were up there and it was like, I got a sunburn. I got a sunburn on my head. And that's sort of like, that was God punishing me for doing this, right? But then it was like, and I felt gross doing the wedding, but I had agreed to do it and I vowed never to do that again. But I have only maybe once or twice. And both of those times, it was like I was giving into, the requests from the family. And they said this about their venue and they had to get out of there at a certain time. And, I've known them since they were really little. So I kind of sidestepped my values, I guess, my professed values to do that. I felt dirty, but I did it anyway. So I'm still, right, working on that, practicing. Right, this is interesting. Go ahead, Brad.
Well, yeah, practicing the mitzvot, that is the challenge for us as Reform Jews, because so many of these uh, things we no longer believe in. So how do you deal with that? And to me, the answer is the next step, which is the leap of faith, which is, even though we may not accept all of these mitzvot, we can still believe. We can get there by practicing the ones we do accept, and then taking that leap.
And understanding that it's constant work, right? That we're always going to be, temptation will always be there around us, right? Temptation is, and then it's how do you deal with that? Or you put yourself into situations where temptations aren't going to be there, and then it's easier to do a certain thing, live a certain way, and knowing that the others around you are doing the same thing and living in a certain way. I mean, it's like at camp, right? We say blessings before we eat and after we eat every day, and that's just like what we do. But then when people leave camp, maybe they do that for a little while, but then they stop. Right? Is that because it means less to them now, or it's a temptation of time and like, I got stuff to do, or temptation of laziness, or temptation of, I don't know.
Their life is different when they leave camp.
But that shouldn't be.
I agree.
Right? So because what we're saying right there is that's the theoretical. Camp is putting that, it's taking away all those temptations. But then once those temptations, you're back into the real world. That's what I was trying to say before, like with Jonathan and Brad, that is it authentic if you don't continue doing the action when you're outside of like a bubble or an eruv? Is the value still authentic? I don't know. That's rough. And does that matter?
I think the value is still authentic because at least children in camp have been exposed to that particular value of saying the blessing before and after the meal, and hopefully they've learned something from it. But that's the adaptation of being a Reformed Jew too, isn't it? I mean, if this was a ultra-Orthodox camp, perhaps that child would be going home and continuing those prayers before and after.
Which happens often, where they do for a little while and then they fall back into, what was comfortable, or
but I think at least that we've all been exposed.
Yeah.
I mean, we're being exposed now by doing this Torah study. We're being exposed, and we take it into our hearts as we can.
This is interesting.
They know that value is there.
Okay, fair.
And do they? And the big question is I know that in the case of the girls, they use it. They do when we're all together, which is seldom because of their schedules. There are blessings said and they initiate it. But when we're not all together and it's fast food night, do they say it in the car on the way home from whatever place we got the fast food from? I mean, I think it's a big discipline. I'm thinking about this and I'm looking at this picture of the girls in the car leaving camp. There's no electronic devices at any of the Jewish camps.
Right.
But the minute these kids get out of camp, whether they're on the bus, whether they're in the car, wherever they might be, they're back on those cell phones.
So check this out. I don't know if you're even aware of this right now. I don't think it's happening in Arizona, but now in our schools, in the high schools or whatnot, it's no cell phones now.
They're talking about it.
No cell phones. They
ballot.
have these things called Yonder patches. Invest now, people, because this is amazing. This is a brand, Yonder. They're these pouches that you're supposed to turn your phone off, put it in, lock it, it closes with a magnet, and then to unlock it, there's a special magnet at the school that unlocks it. It's sort of like those things at the clothing store with those little security things that you need to have it opened and taken off now with their cell phones.
They're talking about it.
The kids
are being fought.
They don't know what to do with it. But you know what's so fun? But it's actually hasn't been so bad. But what's so funny, as soon as that email came out saying that this is what we're doing, that they're doing it in the school, my son jumped on YouTube, and within 2 minutes he found 20 videos on YouTube on how to open these things. These right, right. And people are already talking about, like, let's get some burner phones, and then you can just put your burner phone in there and keep your regular phone with you, right? It's like everybody trying to dupe the system, but my kids will hate me for saying, but they say, it's actually not so bad. It's actually good. Now we get to hang out, we talk to each other, we're not on the phone so much, but they'll figure it out.
In the schools here, at least the school where the girls are,
Yeah.
they're not allowed to be on their phone. They're not allowed for their phone to be present.
Yeah.
Right. But the big issue is, and I think the superintendent of schools has been pushing it the last few weeks, but he got put down by a couple of school districts. Like, that's not going to happen.
It's about removing the temptation. We're back right there at it.
And he's Jewish, but I've known him for years, so I don't even know where he's at in his Judaism, but the schools are saying, and parents are saying, what if there's an emergency?
Have an emergency. That's why you have adults at school that they can talk to.
Exactly. I agree. But it's an excuse that people are using to bypass a rule.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they want to keep those, what's the word that we were using?
Value?
Not the value, the other thing, the temptations. They want to keep the because it's like I'm gonna like give reasons to keep those temptations surrounded. All right, we gotta keep going. I like it because I need to show you something fascinating here. Because we have also this week the like a lot of the kosher rules. A lot of the kosher rules. This is where we have the one that comes from why there's no cheeseburgers. Right? No cheeseburgers. Here it is. Even though, who got to eat cheeseburgers before this? Abraham and Sarah. Abraham and Sarah served their guests cheeseburgers. They did. They called it something different, right? It was the meat and milk together. They served the milk and the yogurt and the cheese and everything with the meat. So here it is, though. You shall not eat anything that has died a natural death. Give it to the stranger in your community to eat, or you may sell it to a foreigner. For you are a people consecrated to your God. Here we go. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk, right? You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. So what I love about this is that we extrapolate out all these other kosher rules from it, the mixing of meat and milk. If you just look at it at face value, then it's like, fine, I'm not going to cook, I'm not going to boil a kid in its mother's milk, but if I know that this comes from somewhere else and this comes from that means I can't eat it. That's like us saying with these other things, well, this is face value, so I'm not going to interpret it. I'm just going to leave it as is. I don't believe it, though. Stone my family to death for doing this. So no, there's got to be more to it. If we do the same thing with this, you shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Because it is a kid, this is specifically talking about goats. It's not even talking about cows and calves and that kind of stuff, right? It's not talking about chickens, right? It's not talking about anything like that, but we extrapolate out. So we should be free to extrapolate out in these other things as well, right? Which is very interesting. So I went to this family once, God bless them. God bless them. And they wanted to share something from their culture with me. It was really like they didn't understand, like they don't really know many Jewish people. I'm one of the only Jewish people they ever met. They wanted to share their culture with me and they invited me over to eat. And they served me something No disrespect that's whatsoever. Almost the most non-kosher thing I could ever think of, right? The only thing that it was lacking was like cut up shrimp and wrapped in bacon. That was the only thing that was lacking from this dish. Okay, ready for this. It literally was these veal sausages that were boiled in milk. That's how they cooked them. They boiled these veal sausages in the milk. I was like, I had to tell them respectfully, I'm a vegetarian. Not a vegetarian, but I got out of eating that and whatnot, but it was like, if we look at the letter of the law, it wasn't goat, so I should have been able to eat it. But really, we also understand the spirit. So my point being, with all of these other things as well, it's also about understanding the spirit of it rather than just looking at it solely at face value. All right, wait. Now here, check this one out. This one I loved. This progression right here. You ready for this one? Oh, yeah, in the little well, if you're willing to stay just a little bit longer, since I kicked off my computer accidentally, I got to show you this one. This is what I love. This is so funny. I mean, it's not so funny. Here we go. Look at this. Deuteronomy 15 here, 15:4. There shall be no needy among you, since your God Adonai will bless you in the land that your God Adonai is giving you as a hereditary portion. There shall be no needy among you. There's not going to be anybody needy. This is Garden of Eden, right? Is that true? There's no needy among us? In the next line, it then is like, first, this is great. There shall be no needy among you, since God Adonai your God blessed you in the land of your head. Then it says, if, however, there is a needy person among you, there's not going to be any needy, but if there is, one of your kin or any of your settlements in the land of God giving you harden your heart. Don't harden your heart to this person and shut your hand against your needy. Rather, you must open your hand and lend whatever is sufficient to meet the needs. But there's not going to be any. But if there isn't going to be any. But if there is, you should open your heart. But then it says, give readily and have no regrets when you do so, for in return, God and I will bless you in all your efforts and in all your undertakings, for there will never cease to be needy ones in your land. So, and this is all within 10 lines. Verses says, 6 lines. Verses says, there's not going to be any needy. Then it says, well, maybe there'll be a few needy. And then it says, there's always going to be needy. There's always going to be needy. What's up with that? Why would it go on such complete opposites within 8 lines, 7 lines? Merle, what you got for us?
So the first thing that comes to mind is before Karsh, when we just had a food pantry.
Okay.
And on Wednesdays and Wednesday afternoons and Sunday mornings, and they'd line up in front of the patio and there was food handed out. But is this referring to just Jewish people? Because Karsh serves everyone.
Ah.
I mean,
let's read it again. There shall be no needy among you. Right? I guess that's
since your God.
Since your God Adonai will bless you in the land that your God Adonai is giving you as a hereditary portion. But then we also got rid of all the other people, so there must be talking about Jewish people, because we had to get rid of everybody else.
I didn't think about that.
I don't know. Maybe not. Brad, what you got?
Well, we're used to deductive reasoning where you arrive at the conclusion. Here they begin with the conclusion and work backwards. So it's just a different way of thinking.
Oh, this is like Covey over here. Begin with the end in mind. The 7 habits of highly successful people, though I think it's now up to 9. I think he added a couple more. The 8 or 9 habits of highly successful people begin with the end in mind. So we're going to begin with the end in mind. The goal, the ultimate Gan Eden is that there will be no needy among us. But then We have to work the way that we have to work to get there. So it's like we have, here's the goal, but here's what we have. I'm beginning with the end in mind, but here's what we have, and then how are we going to get there? And it's all about practice, like Brad said. Ooh, Brad, look at you, bringing us right back to the end. I love it. Oh, Doug, what you got for us?
Well, historians have said that the whole Torah was written by different people. So maybe these two lines were written by different authors at a different time.
So these 7 lines, these 6, 7 lines, it's like, well, yeah, I see that, but just in case. And then some other person came along and was like, it's not really just in case, because check out what we got all around us. I kind of like that. I like that, Doug. I like that a lot. It actually also reminds me of about prayer, right? It's like, for example, when we talk about peace, we say God is a God of peace and God makes peace. Everything is peace, but we know that there isn't peace. So God, we know that you make peace and everything is peace. So since there's not peace, you need to make peace. So make peace so you can be the God of peace. Right? This is that kind of progression. I love it. Anyway, with that, my friends, I want to wish everyone a big Shabbat Shalom. And
Shalom. Thank you. This was amazing.
With the perspective by Ellen, we see the perspectives that we see. Is it a duck? Is it a rabbit? Is it both at the same time? I'm kind of leaning in that direction. So with that, everybody, I'll see you soon. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.